"Your wife left with the boss," her coworker commented as I entered her office during work hours, followed by a smirk and "a little test drive." Later, I discovered tickets for an evening concert of Paige's favorite artist. Wanting to surprise her, I arrived at her office. However, she was absent. Only one of her colleagues remained. He glanced up, sized me up, and said, "She left with the boss." Again he smirked and repeated, "A little test drive." Paige had been a senior sales manager for years at a substantial car dealership in Royal Oak, supervised by Grant Bellamy, the dealership's director. Despite her lengthy tenure, I never had grounds to feel jealous, but his casual mention of a test drive seemed too flirtatious to dismiss. My colleague observed my expression, then swiftly returned to his computer, feigning busyness. Yet the smirk lingered in my mind. I strolled outside towards the parking lot. As expected, the sun blazed intensely, causing the asphalt to radiate heat. Paige's vehicle sat in its regular spot, nestled beneath a broad tree at the periphery of the lot. I awkwardly adjusted my tickets and slipped them into my coat pocket before climbing into my pickup truck. I was on the verge of departing when, unexpectedly, a black Cadillac entered the parking lot. At the wheel was Grant Bellamy, the dealership director and Paige's superior. They both exited the vehicle and engaged in prolonged conversation. Their interaction appeared peculiar. Grant smiled and whispered into her ear. It didn't seem like a business discussion, or perhaps I was just letting my jealousy cloud my judgment. In any case, they worked together. They could have been discussing routine work issues. Approaching them, Paige noticed me. Her face cleared of joy instantly. Grant swiftly turned and hastened into the office. I presented Paige with concert tickets, which she pretended to find delightful. She acknowledged it was a wonderful surprise. I could sense her unease and effort to seem normal. We arranged for me to arrive in the evening to pick her up, and then we'd attend the concert. I escorted her to the office. She kissed me before vanishing through the front doors. Just as I prepared to enter my car, I noticed the same colleague again by the showroom's tall window, watching me intently and smirking once more. It seemed the test drive ended earlier than expected today. I remained silent, climbed into my car, and drove away. However, those words echoed in my mind all the way home, not rumors or speculation, but something everyone there already knew. Except for me, it seemed, everyone at the dealership was privy to this secret. I hadn't yet figured out what my next move should be, but one thing became clear. I was now aware of a significant piece of information. If there truly was something to it, eventually the truth would surface. A few days later, Paige mentioned she'd be attending a crucial client meeting after work and wouldn't join us for dinner. She asked me to postpone our evening plans. That night, on my way home, I was driving through downtown Royal Oak under a cloudy sky with street lamps flickering. Just a few blocks from the dealership, I spotted Paige's car parked on the shoulder next to a two-story residential loft, an unusual location for business meetings. Curious, I drove past, turned around, and parked. It was around 7 p.m. My mind raced with doubts, but I tried to push them away. Perhaps Paige had just stopped by the local businessman for work, I rationalized at the time. Moments later, the loft's door swung open, and Paige and Grant stepped out onto the street. A few moments after that, Paige and Grant emerged from the loft onto the street. They lingered on the doorstep for a couple of minutes. Suddenly, Paige faced him and spoke before they walked towards her car. My heart raced. I remained still, my knuckles white around the steering wheel of my truck, and merely observed them through the windshield. They climbed into Paige's car and drove toward the dealership. Until then, I had clung to the belief that my malicious coworker was merely spreading rumors. But it was becoming increasingly difficult to dismiss this as mere coincidence. I made my way home. On my journey, I considered numerous times to return, confront them at the dealership, demand an explanation, and hear her side of the story. However, I knew she would simply concoct an explanation and tell me I had misunderstood. So I decided to find someone who had been privy to the truth for a long time. The following day, I returned to the dealership and approached my wife's coworker to inquire about Paige and Grant. He acknowledged that the employees had observed their growing closeness for quite some time. It was now an open secret among them that Paige and Grant were involved romantically. I sought clarification regarding the test drives and his previous comment about the test drive ending sooner than expected. He explained that Paige and Grant frequently departed together during work hours, using the pretext of a test drive which had already become a subject of jest among their colleagues. It turned out I was the last to learn this. Previously, I had encountered Grant Bellamy on several occasions when visiting the dealership for business matters. Now my curiosity was piqued. wanting to know everything about him, his identity, family status, and length of time in Paige's life. That night, I spent a considerable amount of time in my office, reviewing all the information I had gathered about Grant. Recalling my old college comrade Harrison Vance, with whom I once studied, I happened to remember him. After graduation, he established multiple dealerships, and I opened an auto repair shop along with a chain of tire stores. We still occasionally engage in poker games or hunting excursions. Grant Bellamy, someone Harrison had employed years ago to manage one of his dealerships, was the topic of our recent phone conversation. Arranging to meet at Harrison's residence that very evening, upon my arrival and entering his house, Harrison inquired, "Mitch, what transpired? There must be a reason you didn't show up during business hours." Pausing for a moment, I sought the appropriate words. I disclosed everything observed near the loft to him. Upon hearing this, Harrison identified the loft immediately. He confirmed that it was an apartment owned by the company and acquired specifically for accommodating significant guests and business partners. I informed Harrison that his employee Grant and my wife, Paige, had been the subject of conversations among staff in his dealership for quite some time. Harrison expressed that he considered Grant one of his most dependable workers, leading to Grant being entrusted with the role of director and near autonomy over the dealership years ago. Additionally, Grant was married with 2 children. Harrison sighed deeply and expressed hope that my words were unfounded, adding that he would personally investigate and contact me, Mitch. Our conversation ended there. I bid farewell and left, but couldn't wait at home for his call. The following morning, I resolved to pay a visit to Grant's office for a serious discussion. Upon entering his office, I found him seated at his large desk, engrossed in some papers. I faced him and bluntly stated, "I'm aware of your situation with Paige." After a brief pause, he attempted to clarify that it wasn't as it seemed. "It's not what you assume, Mitch," Grant abruptly said, looking at me. Beads of sweat appeared on his brow. The matter at hand was work-related between Paige and me. We were dealing with a client, a deal. The loft served merely as a practical location for our discussion. His excuse seemed ludicrous and pitiful, making me feel disgusted. "Grant, do you believe I'm gullible?" I interjected sharply. "I think your wife would be equally intrigued to learn the reality of these work matters." At that instant, Grant paled, and he suddenly took out his phone, placing it in front of me and opening a video recording. From the angle, it appeared to have been filmed in a restaurant. I observed Paige. Across from her at the table sat a man. A few seconds later, he put his arm around her shoulders, and she leaned into him and smiled. Upon seeing Harrison Vance's face, a knot formed in my stomach. Initially, I questioned if I was misunderstanding the situation, but as I continued to scrutinize the phone screen, the gravity of the betrayal became increasingly apparent. I viewed several brief video clips, remaining silent for minutes as I tried to make sense of the revelation. Grant had stated that this truth wasn't meant to be disclosed, yet with it now out in the open, he was prepared to share everything he knew. In exchange, he asked only one favor, not to implicate his wife and children in this matter. I obliged. Subsequently, he revealed that Harrison and Paige had been involved romantically for approximately 2 years. Over time, Harrison became a frequent presence at the dealership without any discernible reason. Eventually, he no longer concealed their affair from Grant himself. He made it clear to Grant that unnecessary discussions among the staff were off-limits, or he risked losing his job. After concealing our relationship, I pondered over my recent chat with Harrison as we parted ways from the dealership. His heavy sigh, his pledge to investigate the matter personally and contact me later. At the time, I thought he was aiding me. Now I comprehended his true intentions. He wasn't considering my predicament. Instead, he was contemplating his next move. Before departing, I requested Grant not to divulge details about my visit. I was uncertain about my next step, but desired to hear the truth directly from Harrison. On Saturday, I phoned him and inquired about his status. "Mitch, I recall everything," he started. "Monday morning, I'll be at the dealership. I guarantee I'll reveal Grant's secrets." "I have no doubt," was my response. On Monday morning, I visited the dealership. Ascending to the second floor, I entered Grant's office. Harrison sat at the desk sipping coffee. Upon spotting me, he nearly coughed. He hadn't anticipated this turn of events. However, he swiftly regained his composure. "It's good you're here," he remarked. "We'll resolve everything here with you present." Surrounding him at the desk were some of his staff members. He cast a glance at them and signaled for them to exit. I requested they remain. Then I retrieved my phone, positioned it on the desk among us, and hit play on the video message Grant had sent me. The office fell silent for a few moments as everyone fixed their gaze on the screen, where their superior was seen embracing my spouse in a restaurant. Harrison's complexion immediately paled. He then glanced away, his reaction conveying more than any spoken words. I subsequently asked everyone to vacate the office. Alone now, I settled opposite him and confronted him with my eyes. Harrison did not dispute the evidence and admitted instantly that he indeed had a close bond with Paige. He attempted to explain the circumstances of their connection. He admitted he didn't intend to inflict harm and hadn't realized how much it escalated. However, it made no difference to me anymore. It was then that I comprehended I had not only lost my spouse, but also a dear friend. Leaving the dealership, I got into my car and drove home. Upon arrival, Paige was there, and a tough talk awaited me. My discussion with Paige was brief. I immediately informed her of my visit to Harrison, followed by a single question. "How could you deceive me for 2 years?" She avoided eye contact and stayed quiet for an extended period. Eventually, she said, "I don't know what to say." I understood that no changes were possible anymore. All her explanations were futile. What hurt me most was not discovering the affair, but realizing that 2 individuals close to me had concealed the truth for 2 years and made a fool of me in front of everyone at the dealership. A few days later, I filed for divorce. That concludes the story. Did you believe until the very end that Paige's romantic partner was Grant, or did you have suspicions about Harrison sooner on? Share your thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe, as things are about to become even more intriguing.